Pine. So yeah, I feel like that doesn't, he doesn't get that enough, so probably the why he's having trouble leaving it. I guess he doesn't see his, like, Uncle Ethan as often. He's not as close as often as he wants to be. Because he doesn't see it as often, I guess because, his father's disapproval of Uncle Ethan. So yeah, yeah, I'm guessing that, it's like, the movie never really touches on that, but it's kind of hinted at, very vaguely, you know. It touches on it, but it's vague a bit. Yeah, so that's my guess why Miles has, most of the time, just has trouble getting gets it, and then doesn't get it as Spider-Man. One minute he's got the hang of it, and the next minute, I don't know, 1 minute, or I don't know how many minutes later, he doesn't get the hang of it. I mean, next thing, I used the wrong words, but I'm pretty sure you knew what I meant to say. I'm just assuming that, I'm saying he got the hang of it, next thing you know, he doesn't get the hang of it, you know? Very unpredictable, his progress is. It's very inconsistent, and, not the good kind, actually. And I think, that's why both Peter Parkers basically says Miles, I think Jack Johnson's Peter Parker, I feel like he sees more of Miles I think he sees more of Miles than Miles sees himself versus Chris Pine's Peter Parker. And Chris Pine's Peter Parker just, like, does serve as a brief mentor to Miles, but it comes across more as a big brother mentor, and Jack Johnson comes across more as this unexperienced father figure mentor. And then there's his actual father, who's not really much as a father figure, but more as a mentor. But this has trouble being. He doesn't seem doesn't like seeing like he doesn't want to be both. It seems like he doesn't know how to be both. So that's kind of his uncomfortable zone. His actual father, and while his Uncle Ian knows how to be a father figure, but not really as much as someone to look up to, like his father is. So because of the whole Prowler thing, I guess. And Peter is actually Jack Johnson's Peter, and Jack Johnson's Peter comes across as both I think what I like about Jack Johnson's Peter Parker, and why he's my favorite character, and even more in this movie, and running circles around Chris Pine's Peter Parker, in so many, because he's that good, is because I think it's part of his relationship with Miles, and and being his mentor, and also his brutally honest father figure, unexperienced father figure / friend. Yes, he comes across he's very brutally honest, but not kind of a Coles Hollis way, but and in fact when he first it's kind of hard to explain when I gotta say I had hard times explaining myself. So I think so. After Miles almost kills Peter Parker. Peter B. Parker, played by Jack Johnson, he teaches Miles' first rule at becoming Spider-Man that comes back to by Peter Parker, and that's because he got spawned by Miles. He tells Miles to watch the hands, not the face, of what your opponent's doing. Basically, watch your, in other words, be more aware of your surroundings, not what's just happening right in front of you. In other words, be more observant. In other words, be more aware of what could happen, not what's happening in the moment. Is what is basically. So he even tells Miles that's his first spider tip, Peter B. Parker is technically teaching him spider stuff, but it comes across the wrong way until you realize this is the best way that he could have taught Miles, because this is the way Peter learns, how his Peter Parker learned in the past. Because when you literally think about it, it's Chris Pine's Peter Parker wanted to teach Miles not his way of learning, but more of the hold your hand, I'll be your guide safety learning. Jack Johnson's Peter Parker just wants to give Miles the cold hard reality of being Spider-Man. And expect him to learn while he's in the battlefield. When it comes to fighting out Spider-Man, was using his powers or even swinging. And he says that's the best way to learn, because that's the best way Peter learned. Is through is coping through is working through the stress while being Spider-Man. That's also how he makes jokes. He makes jokes to work through the stress, and also while working through a Spider-Man, while being under severe stress and several life-threatening dangers over the years of his Spider-Man. So I think this in a way, I think this is the best teacher Miles could have gotten at for Spider-Man, for being for getting a Spider-Man test, because he tells him little pieces of Spider-Man advice things, and tell him to powder the mask and all over the costume, and especially in the costume, because he doesn't want to because that can really get up there. It can really tighten up during when you're sweating and stuff, I guess, but that's just the worst, I guess, because he taught Miles that because he had learned the hard way, because he got it's kind of he got bad itching there of being Spider-Man by not powering the costume, so he's giving him tips. He's giving him stuff that he learned on the way of how he learned and how he memorized of how he learned them. So he's giving the tips of being Spider-Man or more early and advanced, but he's just exposing giving the clean cut answer without the sugar coming in about what you need to do to be a Spider-Man. He even gives this a whole tip that I don't think Miles knows this is a tip, but he tells the tick of the buzz instead of swinging after eating burgers. And Miles is told by Peter, "Say you'll thank me later if you trust me. You're going to thank me later. The fact that I actually got you, that we're doing this instead of swinging." So my guess is, I think that's basically that's a tip of Peter of shouldn't eat after you shouldn't swing while actually eating a big meal. I'm guessing, because I guess you'll get nauseous. I'm guessing that's what happened to people. Is it's more funny. It's very funny. Oh, this sounds very funny. Definitely the most. This film's very funny. I think like the funniest movie I have ever experienced, and also the funniest comic book film or show and comic book shows I've experienced. Or anything, you know, just in general. So yeah. So Peter tells Miles to learn from his basically telling Miles to learn from his demonstration when he's in battle as Spider-Man, or swinging through the trees and stuff. And that's why he says he'll quiz him later. He says to Miles, and when he says watch and learn, and I'll quiz you later, and take notes. He says. So I think that's basically. I don't think that's Peter being lazy. I'm just saying that's him. Jack Johnson's Peter Parker is not him being lazy. I think that's his best way that he can know how he, like, because you can tell he's definitely figuring this out, whole teaching skills, because you kind of getting the feeling that he's never teach at all. For someone to be the Spider-Man, but you get like has ever thought of it. Just like he's never thought of having kids. Sort of polar opposite of, and that way compared to Chris Pine's Peter Parker as Spider-Man. So yeah, and Kingpin is probably the best villain in comic book history. In this version of Kingpin, probably the best villain ever, because he's so menacing and has a really interesting motivation and a backstory. Like, his family died in a car accident because he ran away because he was fighting Spider-Man that caught him. So he wants to bring his family back from another dimension, and that's why he made this, had Dr. Octavius, who's a girl in this universe, make this invention that takes things from other Earths in the multiverse. And that's what ends up getting destroyed. Temporarily, but they fixed it back together once they see the Spider people, Peter Parker, Spider-Man in action, and also Gwen Stacy Spider-Man in action, and finds out that, and he only knows, she was assuming that these Spider people are all from different dimensions, because she did a DNA test on Peter Parker, Jack Johnson's one, and finds out that the reason why he's like glitching up, like making these glitch effects are happening to him, and he's basically fading in our reality. Not fading in our reality, he's like fading out in and out of. He's warping, he's kind of flashing. The whole glitching him action is like, basically his body's decaying, okay? They said, that's what they say, the worst, why that's all happening to him, and why this happened also to Gwen and all this people that's not from Miles' dimension, is because the body is basically slowly going decaying. And decay means that it's rotting away, but struggling to rot away, to decay. And I guess like the longer, it's sort of unpredictable of how much time he has. So, but if he stays too long, he's going to decay now. And she asks Octavius asks before she reveals herself as Octavius to Spider-Man, while Spider-Man's actually putting on the charm to her and flirting with her, and as Spider-Man, he thinks that this works, but it does kind of work, but not. Also, kind of backfires on his face. So, she asks Spider-Man if he knows how painful decaying your body can be, and he says no. He says, which was fair. He says no. and she says very painful, which is why I'm going to enjoy watching it, waiting for it to happen to you. And she's and while I do tests on you, for you to take samples of your blood, and she said, and then he gets super villain vibes from her, and that's when she realized that she's Dr. Octavius, because he started to remember what her name is. So it kind of rang a bell to him. And that's when he found out that in this universe, Dr. Octavius is a girl instead of a guy that's chubby, on the chubby side. So, so after she gets her ass whooped from the Spider people, after Gwen Stacy reveals herself as Spider-Gwen, and when she's not from the dimension, even though she's... And this is the girl that knows Miles from the school, who's the new girl, the new kid, new student in school, and Miles tries to float us up by doing the trick on his Uncle Ethan taught him about how to pick up a girl, like put his full shoulders on her shoulders and say, hey, and he starts sweating, and he doesn't know because he's scared. This is when he's like hearing voices in his head, and his spider sense is going off, and he's got taller because he's saying he had puberty when it's just him gaining his spider abilities and increasing muscle and strength and agility. It's like he's on for the chains of being a Spider-Man, the physical chains and psychological chains, because he's hearing his voice in his head narrating to himself while he's narrating to himself. His voice is deeper. So, so he puts shoulders on her head and her shoulders, and then he's sticking ability starts acting up, and he can't unstick himself. This is actually following a scene from The Amazing Spider-Man from 2012 with Andrew Garfield. I can tell that this is borrowing that scene, but making it incredibly funny without coming across too awkward, but just right amount of awkwardness and funny. And well, actually, I think this is actually more awkward, but actually, it's actually more funny in here, I think. That's the thing. It wasn't funny enough in The Amazing Spider-Man from 2012, when the scene I borrowed from Pierce, instead of Pierce as Miles, and it's, I made Captain Staff as some person that doesn't play a poor and pile like it did in the, like people got stuck to an Amazing Spider-Man. Film from 2012, okay? So, and I also like how, like, I noticed how it took inspiration from, the Sam Raimi movies. Now, most people mention how everyone has mentioned how and I'm not talking about the whole train shot, where people stop the train, like, and the opening scene, although that is the scene that these balls from. It's literally a shot by similar. It's shot from a different angle, but it was different Spider-Man. So they used that scene from the second one, but I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the scene, the whole making the scene comedic instead of serious, because it works so much better this way, and it feels more real and honest. From Miles' place, okay? It's the scene when Miles wakes up from bed and he's tall and he's getting muscles and spider powers. That was literally the scene when Spider-Man wakes up in the first 2002 Spider-Man movie, from the first two Spider-Man that were just unwatchably bad. But it seems like it takes like, I like how, like, it takes, inspiration from taking this by giving the scenes. It takes the scene from Spider-Man 1, the 2002 one, and makes it actually watchable and not a snore fest like it did. Because I think the reason why that scene never worked for me, because we're supposed to find that scene in the 2012 film inspiring and be amazed, I guess, because he has abs now and not mad skinny Maguire's. And so, I mean, he looks like he ate a sandwich, but I don't know if that's anything to be inspired, like heroically inspiring, but here, like the fact that he made the scene so they treat it like such an awkward and funny thing, an idea, actually works in Spider-Verse, and it's actually one of the best films in his cinema in Spider-Verse that happens to Miles. Like the whole morning, it's absolute chaos for him. Because the girl he likes Gwen Stacy, he also not only that thing happens. You know how again, this is actually more funnier and kind of more this is what more masterpiece is probably painful for Gwen Stacy to have her hair yanked out of her head because that's what Miles says. He decided to rip on it. Peter says, "I'm just going to yank it out." And Gwen says, "I advise against you. Do not do that. Just trust me, Miles. Don't do it." And just pay him not to do it. And it just cuts to a scene of the whole them in the hospital room in the school. So now in the Amazing Spider-Man movie, the first one was Andrew Garfield from 2012. But Peter rips off his little woman's woman's shirt, and then her bra is exposed. I mean, it's fine, but it's more it's fine, but not as it's funny, but it's kind of funny, but not as funny as you want it to be in the Spider-Man movie with Andrew Garfield. But here, this is the right now funniest and funniness and awkwardness and you feel how the scene plays out, and you feel right in Miles' sympathy for Miles, while also knowing that that was a terrible idea. That was a really stupid decision, you know. That you're thinking, Miles, like, why would he do that? He has attached in the roots in his skull. So it sounds kind of funny and painful that he did that to her. So she ends up the rest of the movie pissed at him and saying that he doesn't get which is only one time he brings up the whole hair of like in the new hairdo, because that's when she finds out she's from the multiverse, on the Earth in the multiverse. So she's just pissed at him because it is his fault for that new hairdo. And he says, I like the hairdo. And she says, you don't get to like my hair. And part of her character arc is because she lost her best friend Peter Parker and has shut herself off from making friends or growing sentimental or attached to people. So she is so, and they get to know each other, and Miles asks her if she's ever ready to make a friend again. I'm open, Miles says. So, and she says, okay, not mine. And then when they say the goodbyes, he wants to know if she's ready to make friends. That's why he offers her his friendship, and she just takes it. And so as she says goodbye, they're saying goodbyes after all the other spider people said goodbyes. When they're going back to the other dimension, when the multiverse is collapsing after this epic climax. During this epic climax, after they defeat Octavius from Miles' dimension, and So yeah, it was a very nice scene, I thought. So you know, that's after Miles breaks free from the webs and redoes one of Peter's costumes with spray paint, which is artwork. And it's quite his masterpiece. The costume spray paint is definitely his masterpiece when it comes to artwork throughout the entire film. So, yeah, and he saves the day. While the other Spider-Man getting their ass, other Spider characters getting their ass for the ones that ditched him, and the ones who decided Miles shouldn't come on the mission, is the same person that Miles up is, which is Peter B. played by Jack Johnson. So, because he knows that Miles really wants this, but he's not ready. And he understands that he really wants this because he knows what that feels like to really want to be Spider-Man. And to make a difference as Spider-Man. And to be that experienced Spider-Man, he knows like what that's like because he's been in Miles' shoes before. So, yeah. And he tells Miles that he will never know that he's Spider-Man if he's never willing to take the leap of faith of trying to be Spider-Man. Because that's all it is that's all it ever is always ever been. It's just a leap of faith, Miles, and he just needs to take that leap of faith. And that's how Miles will know that he's ready to be Spider-Man, when he's ready to take that